It was quite a long journey getting to finding Château Trois Cloches and buying it, and finally kind of pulled together this video of both the moment we picked up the keys, but also I thought it would be really nice to share a bit of the story on sort of how we got here and our journey to sort of finding and discovering and finally getting the keys for Château Trois Cloches. We've been looking for quite a long time at different chateaux. Unfortunately, because of COVID, we had to do an awful lot of our research from the UK, so getting the sort of estate agents to send us loads of information over by email.
Also virtual viewing, wasn't it?
Yeah, virtual viewings. I never even knew you could do that, where you get like a little kind of camera that they must have moved around the house that does sort of 360-degree shots. The first chateau that we fell in love with and actually made an offer on was one near Amiens, in a sort of a small village called Croissant. I don't actually know how to pronounce it. It was a really beautiful chateau, and yeah, it had so much going for it, but unfortunately at that stage we didn't have a mortgage in place, which can actually be really quite difficult in France. Yeah. As we discovered, it took a long time, didn't it, to get the mortgage sorted out, and we had to sort of try different companies. And so really sadly, although kind of they accepted our offer, they went with someone else in the end.
But a blessing, because then lockdowns hit and we'd have had a mortgage and not been able to visit or do anything with it. So yeah, absolute blessing, really.
Yeah. Which one was next? It was
Château Trois Cloches, yeah. And this one we'd seen online for a long time. It was really cheap, and I think when I say cheap for like a chateau, it was something like 200,000 euros. Absolutely massive, really old property.
So we've been driving through the countryside in France for a couple of hours, and we're literally just a couple of minutes away from the first chateau that we're going to look at. It's a kind of a really old chateau which needs a lot of work doing. It hasn't been lived in for over 200 years, we're told, and so yeah, it needs a lot of work.
There was no electricity. No water, no sanitation.
Not many walls.
No, not many walls. The roof had caved in, so everything below it was just destroyed. And we're like, well, for that much money, we could probably do it. We're aware of we know what needs to be done. It's a huge job.
We took the view that because there was so much that needed doing, at least there was no hidden surprises.
Yeah, that's what we told ourselves.
We had to do everything.
We did, and then we looked at it. With my brother-in-law had like a colleague who works out in France, and he's like a builder, surveyor.
Yeah.
So he's a really useful guy actually, and he came round with us, met us there.
It's splitting there, look. So it's probably just some very heavy weights been on it, or some faulty timber, and it's just bowed. So these timbers are good. We had 4 days of very hot weather.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, it doesn't go that very far, but
it's quite a small cellar. Is this wood okay though? I guess that's
this is all gone.
Is it like damp rot or dry rot?
Difficult for me. Once it's in, you can have a treatment for it, but a building this size, the new block work on the right, that's okay. And obviously keep the chimney, keep that. Probably keep these joists.
And he was really impressed. He loved it. We loved the bones of it. It was so exciting. We already had like a floor plan that we devised in our head because we were waiting so long to see it. And we looked around. It was amazing. But then we came away and we're like, oh my god, this probably needs about £800,000 worth of work on it.
Yeah, once we totted it all up.
And to get a mortgage, French banks like to see a lot of evidence.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, so to get the mortgage, you would have to have gone with builders that I think the mortgage company would have to approve, which means we couldn't really have done as much just using our friends and family, which is how we would have saved the money and reduced the costs. But it was also the location, wasn't it? One of the big questions for us is whether we're sort of too far out into the countryside.
Oh yeah, location, yeah, it wasn't great. And it also had this farm attached to it which was rented out, which we thought, oh, that'd be a nice income. And then it's a whole can of worms. It's called a bear rural. Basically the farmers, rural lease. The farmers have most of the power and a lot of
just probably buy royal.
Yeah, basically the farmers have a lot of power in it, and it can be very messy. So
yeah, what happens is when the farmer dies, they can pass it down to like a male person descendant, who can then take on the mortgage on the same terms, and so it's sort of really hard to get out of it. Yeah, it's like a long-term lease, but very much in the favour of the renter and the farmer, and the only way of actually ending it is to have a French farming qualification and basically sort of demonstrate that you're going to use it as a farm yourself. So
yeah, it's just another complication, and we really wanted the other buildings that the farmers had as well to like make it into a event business.
Wedding venue. Yeah, like those buildings were probably in better nick than the main house.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But it had a beautiful little moat. There was a history behind it. Actually, I could go on about it for ages. It was stunning, and we'd convinced ourselves it was for us.
Yeah.
Until we got the bill.
But what was next? So after that, we then put an offer in on a chateau quite near Caen. It was really beautiful, but quite a small little chateau. And the main building was kind of in really good nick. It was very kind of beautiful setting with lots of outbuildings. So we put an offer in, but we weren't successful in getting it. But again, it was a bit of a blessing in disguise, because when we sort of thought it through, we were like, actually you've got all of these outbuildings, and there was tons of them.
Big ones as well.
Yeah, really big. And we wouldn't have had enough money to renovate them into gîtes, so we wouldn't have been able to earn any money from them. But they all needed quite a bit of work doing just to stop them from kind of deteriorating and kind of getting into a worse state of repair, and like they all needed work doing on their roofs. And they were probably like 4 times the size of the main building overall. And in the actual main building itself, it wasn't very big actually, was it? It was only like, was it 5 bedrooms or 6 bedrooms?
Yeah, and it felt
I say this sounds kind of crazy.
But for a chateau.
For a chateau, yeah, it was quite small.
But it was very boxy. It had not much soul, I thought. It was just like 1 room, 2 room, 3 room, 4 room, repeated on every floor. Just not much kind of character, yeah. But you really liked it. I love the setting. It had a beautiful old dry stone wall around the property. Had cows you could see opposite. The nice building. Oh, and George, do you remember the entrance?
Yeah.
This beautiful tree-lined, kind of rusty road.
Yeah.
That then led off to the chateau and a few other kind of houses nearby. That was beautiful. Not many we saw like that, and that's kind of what we wanted on our tick list.
Yeah.
Hard to find.
Then we found Château Trois Cloches.
Yeah, and here we are, speaking from Château Trois Cloches.
Yeah, so for Château Trois Cloches, we obviously fell in love with the orangery first. I think it's just like, this room is incredible. Such a different space, like I've never seen anywhere with a sort of a space like this, and we just thought, oh my god, you could do amazing parties in here. Really loved it, but I mean, we'll do loads of videos on this property obviously, but what was kind of really interesting is, again, we've had loads of challenges on the actual journey to buying it. So we finally managed to get our mortgage sorted out, having gone with different companies. The first bank got us really, like, we had to pay a broker, not very much, but she was like, yeah, don't worry, it'll be fine. Got through to the last stage, and we mentioned the word chateau. Like, oh no, we don't do mortgages on chateaux. There's too many things that go wrong with it, especially with British people coming over and buying them. Yeah, so we got stuck with the mortgage, and for our Patreon viewers, we'll probably do a bit more of a kind of a Q and tell on like a Q&A on the sort of hints and tips of sort of buying a property in France, and all sorts of things around like the challenges you can face with chateaus and sort of the things that we learnt along the journey. But we thought we kind of got really close to the final stages, didn't we? And we were really close to buying it, and we were literally like about to come down to France to sign the acte de vente to sort of complete the sale. And the day before, the notaire called up and was like, "Yeah, there's a problem." Basically, like, I think I've mentioned before, there was issues with dry rot in the property, which is really, really serious. And so we were absolutely adamant that all of that work had to be kind of properly sorted before we would take over the property. And it's quite a complex process where they have to like squirt stuff into the walls, they have to strip off all of the wood from any area near where it happened, they have to treat everything, and then it all has to be like reinstated again. We were sort of saying, well, look, where's the guarantee? And eventually it came out, they were like, well, we can't give the guarantee because it hasn't all been done. Yeah, ultimately we needed to kind of have those guarantees, and so that delayed it until for a few months. But then eventually we finally got to this space where we'd reached an agreement on how to handle that remaining bit of work that needed doing. We'd sorted all of the other outstanding issues. It's the longest contract I've ever seen. It's like 50 pages or something. It just goes on and on and on. We couldn't get all the way to, I think it was like somewhere near Caen where the rest of them were signing the contract, but we couldn't get there in the one day. So we stopped off in Honfleur and we did the signing remotely. So we're just driving towards Honfleur, where if all goes to plan, we'll check into the hotel, and if the Wi-Fi works okay, we'll be logging on to a video conference with our notaire, the translator, the owner of the house, another lawyer. Oh God, there's so many people involved, it seems crazy. I think there's also a representative from the bank. And yeah, then we'll be going through the acte de vente, which we're told is going to take hours.
Could be like 4 hours, yeah.
Is it really going to be that long? Bloody hell. Well, anyway, regardless, after that, if all goes to plan, we will be the proud owners of Château Trois Cloches. Yeah, and then after that, I guess we'll just go for a few drinks in Honfleur, won't we, with Dan and...
After signing.
Yeah. We've got a couple of friends who just happen to be passing by, so we'll go for drinks with them, and yeah, they can be the first visitors to the chateau. So we drove down to Honfleur and bedded ourselves in a hotel, and we were very confident in the Wi-Fi because we'd been given lots of reassurances, but quickly discovered that it didn't work at all in the bedroom. So we had to kind of position ourselves next to the bar and the toilet in a noisy cafe.
Next to the coffee machine.
Next to the coffee machine for like one of the most important moments of our life, and the sort of signing of this really major contract, which went on for like 5 hours, didn't it? In 34-degree heat. How hot
Oh
was
my God, it was a heat wave. It was hideous, and the cafe had no aircon. They just had the doors open, so lots of iced water, and yeah, it was very long and boring. And our interpreter had to do, well, part of a French contract signing is that they go through every single word, pretty much, don't they? Every clause.
Yeah.
So we had to do that in French and English, and then go, oui, je comprends, je comprends,
Je
j'entends.
Continue to because it actually expired. So we had to do it.
Merci.
It's a stick forever.
Yeah, and then they had this like IT problem, so they
We
sort of
couldn't
got to the
actually-
end of the signing. For the signing bit, you had to sort of do this virtual thing, and it just didn't work. So in the end, they had to bring in some other like witnesses who then had to do all of the signing of the contracts
Every
for us.
page, every initial,
Yeah.
witnessed by our people, the bank's people, the previous owners. So it was like this chain of people. I don't know if we've got any footage of it.
Yeah, there were about like 8 people, maybe 9 people in the room.
And they were all dripping in heat.
Yeah.
Like we thought we had it bad, but they were in a room of like 12 people, stuffy room somewhere, and all like furiously signing every page and initialing. Anyway, it got done. We had a glass of champagne waiting for us, which was nice, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was good fun.
And then we had some friends of mine, well ours, Kate and Dan, who were passing through, so they arranged to meet us in Honfleur, and we went for drinks and dinner, and they had their dog with them.
Oh,
So yeah, it was really nice. It was
Yeah.
a lovely way to celebrate.
Yeah, and then we popped round to Château Trois Cloches, where
The next day.
we met the estate agent. It was so exciting, actually, just sort of opening the door, and it's always funny when you first get the keys because you kind of like don't really know how the lock works. So it felt like a bit of a muppet in the video, but yeah, and then you sort of get in and it's like, oh my God, what have you done? And you have every emotion flooding through you, from like panic to oh my God, this is so amazing, can't believe it. It was like all of the
Just
emotions.
literally, yeah. And I'll never forget it, because looking back on it, I'll always be able to remember those waves of different emotions. Mainly
Butterflies.
Butterflies, yeah. For me, I think my main emotion was excitement.
Hmm.
It's a boring, overused word, but I was excited,
Yeah.
and I think
I was probably a little bit more on the
the other side.
panicking end of the spectrum, but that's very much to character. And I think like once we sort of started to open boxes, that was when I really started to be like, wow, this is cool. But we had this crazy night where it was sort of the 36-degree heat until about 5, 6
Was
o'clock.
that the first night we were here?
First night we were here, and then suddenly it changed. There was like some footage of people on a beach in Deauville that got caught in a sandstorm, and suddenly like the gales were whistling through the trees. All of the like French shutters were rattling.
All unfamiliar sounds as well. So
yeah, the whole house was like creaking on the first night we got the keys. So that was.
I wouldn't even dare go to like the loo or down the corridor at night without Jolyon, because it was like half the lights had been taken or didn't work.
Yeah. Another tip about French properties is that all the light fittings go.
So that was fun, our first night in, and here we are.
Yeah, I think like after that it was just sort of cracking on with the jobs. And anyway, I hope you do enjoy watching and following our journey as we renovate this beautiful building. I think there'll be some laughs and probably...
There better be some laughs.
Yeah, a lot of hard work as well. If you're interested, subscribe down below or follow us on Instagram.
That always sounds so cheesy, doesn't it? Subscribe down below. But that means you get to see the videos as soon as they're out, so
yeah,
highly recommend it.